Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. This video is part of the financial market series in which I'll break down some of the basics in ways that are easy to understand. This is the second video of part 1 on foreign exchange. In the last video, I explained what foreign exchange is and what you need to know to better understand this asset class. If you have not watched that video, please find the link in the description. This video is a continuation of part 1 about foreign exchange. In this video, I'll talk about some of the major currencies that are widely used and traded. Let's start. To know what some major and most traded currencies are, the simplest way is to group them into categories. The most important groups are the G10s, the emerging market currencies, and the exotics. The G10 is a list of currencies in a group of 10 developed industrialized countries. G10s are the most heavily traded in the FX market. Here's the list. Don't worry about the short forms of these currencies because we'll go through each one of them. We're going to start off the G10 list with the USD, also known as the US dollar. Now, USD is the ISO code for the US dollar. The ISO being the International Organization for Standardization. This is the code that we have to know to identify a specific currency because it is what markets refer to. So going forward, any three-letter word that you see on the slides will be referring to the ISO code. If you do not take away anything from this video, this is the thing that you must know going forward. USD being the ISO code. Now, USD is also called the US dollar or the greenback. It is one of the most widely accepted currencies in the world, even though it is not the strongest. There are other currencies that are more valuable per $1, and I hope to cover that in the future video. USD is an important reserve currency. Now, what is a reserve currency? It is a foreign currency that is held in significant quantities by central banks or other monetary authorities as part of their foreign exchange reserves. The reserve currency can be used in international transactions, international investments, and the USD makes up 59% of the world's total currency reserve. Just to put things into perspective, the second place is the euro with only 21.2%. So USD being a big chunk of the world's reserve currency is one of the major reasons why it is widely accepted in many countries, if not all countries. And this is the symbol, and this is an example of how the dollar note looks like. The next most important currency in the G10 list is of course the euro, EUR under the ISO code. It is also known as the euro or the single currency, and it came into existence in 1999, but it wasn't until the 2002 that the currency existed in forms of notes and coins. It is the official currency of 19 countries that are part of the European Union. And the note looks like this. The next most important currency on the G10 list is of course the GBP, the Great Britain pound. It is also known as the cable or sterling, and the symbol looks like this. It is the oldest currency still in circulation, dating back to the year 775 in the form of coins, but it wasn't until 1694 that notes were issued. It is also known as the sterling because back in the year 775, silver pennies known as sterlings were used as currency, and 240 sterlings will make 1 pound. It was a fortune back then until inflation does what it does best. No surprises, Her Majesty the late Queen Elizabeth II appears on the obverse of all the pound notes available from £5 to 50. So valuable is Her late Majesty's image. She also appears in other currencies, as you'll see later on. The next currency that I want to talk about is the JPY, short code for the Japanese yen. It's also called the Japanese yen or just yen. The official use began in 1871 as part of the Meiji Restoration. And do you know that the 2000 yen denomination is rarely used because very few vending machines and ATMs accept it? And the JPY looks like this. The next currency on the G10 list is the CHF, known also as the Swiss franc or Swissy. There is no official symbol, and the fun fact is, it is not just the national currency of Switzerland, but also Liechtenstein, and it is the legal tender in the Italian exclave of Campione d'Italia. CHF is odd, isn't it? Why doesn't it have S or W or Z that forms the word Switzerland? CHF stands for, and pardon my pronunciation, Confederatio Helvetica Franc, where Confederatio Helvetica is Latin for the Swiss Confederation. And the Swiss franc notes look like this. The next currency on the G10 list is CAD, which is short for the Canadian dollar, otherwise known as the loonie or candy. And it looks like this. And that's the late Queen Elizabeth II. Yes, she appears on the 20 Canadian dollar note. Now, why does she appear on the Canadian dollar? Well, she was also the head of the Commonwealth, a loosely affiliated group that includes Canada, Australia, New Zealand, among others. The AUD is the ISO code for the Australian dollar, also known as the Aussie. It is the official currency of Australia as well as 3 other countries, Kiribati, Nauru, and Tuvalu. Its value is quite closely linked to the prices of commodities that Australia exports, such as iron, coal, gold, aluminum, copper, and crude oil. And here is how the Australian dollar looked like. And we have the late QE2. She's on the obverse of the $5 note, and a younger looking image is used. After the Aussie dollar, of course, we talk about the NZD, which is short for the New Zealand dollar, also known as Kiwi. It is the official currency of New Zealand and the Cook Islands, Niue, and even though the Pitcairn Islands is a UK territory, it also uses Kiwi dollar as its official currency. In the Kiwi dollar, QE2 appears on the $20 note. Next is the SEK, which is the ISO code for the Swedish krona. It is also known as the Stocky. Krona is derived from the Latin word corona, which means crown. Several countries use some form of corona, like the Czech koruna, krona in Faroe Islands and Iceland, and kron in Norway and Denmark. Early on, I talked about 19 euro members adopting the euro as the official currency. Well, of the 8 remaining euro members that do not adopt euro as the official currency, Sweden is one of them. And this is how it looks like. After the Swedish krona comes the NOK, the ISO code for the Norwegian krone, also known as the NOK. Norway, like Sweden, is also a member of EU that does not adopt euro as its official currency. And it looks like this. We have now completed the list of G10s. I've briefly touched on the G10s, and the most important takeaway here is their short forms. To know more about FX, it is expected that you know what this short form means. For example, if you see JPY, immediately you should know it is Japanese yen. If it's AUD, immediately you're expected to know that it's the Australian dollar. Next, we move on to the emerging market currencies. The most important ones are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They are considered to be a list of countries that are experiencing high economic growth and are transitioning from developing countries to developed countries. I use the term considered because there isn't a specific definition as to what an emerging country is or isn't, and the list here is one of the most important and the ones that are generally used. Let's go through them one by one. The first currency on the emerging market list is the BRL, which is the ISO code for the Brazilian real. Real is pronounced real. The 1 real note reportedly can reach a value of 100 real amongst collectors because it is no longer printed. The Brazilian real looks like this. The second currency on the emerging market list is the RUB, the ISO code for the Russian ruble. It is also known as just the ruble, and the symbol looks like this. This is the second oldest currency still in circulation behind the sterling pound, and the note looks like this. The next currency on the emerging market list is the INR, which is the ISO code for the Indian rupee, otherwise known just as the rupee. This is the symbol, and the denominations are written in English and Hindi on the obverse, and on the reverse in another 15 languages. This is how the Indian rupee looks like. Then we have the CNY, which is the ISO code for the Chinese yuan, locally known as the renminbi, and when translated to Chinese Mandarin, it means the people's currency. The symbol looks like this, which is almost exactly like how the yen looks like, but locally it is understood that this refers to the Chinese yuan. And of course, Mao Zedong is on the note. Last but not the least, we have the ZAR, which is the ISO code for the South African rand. It was created in 1961, and the rand actually had a higher value than the US dollar up until 1982. Now you might wonder why it is ZAR and not SAR, since it's South African rand. The ZAR is the acronym of, pardon my pronunciation, Zuid-Afrikaans rand in Dutch. Of course, Nelson Mandela is on the note. We're now done with the emerging market currencies, in which I've covered the Brazilian real, the ruble, the INR, CNY, as well as the South African rand. Next, we have the exotics. This is not a fixed set of currencies, but simply used to refer to currencies that are not as highly traded or used compared to the G10s or the emerging market currencies, but well known enough not to be totally obscure. So some of the more well-known ones include the TRY, PLN, MXN, THB, and HUF, and these are the names: Turkish lira, Polish zloty, Mexican peso, Thai baht, Hungarian forint, and many more. So due to the sheer number of exotics, I will not be covering them one by one, and we will take them as we go along. So with this information, I hope you now know what the major currencies of the world are. So far, I've covered what FX is, what the major currencies are. In the next video, I will share with you how to read and interpret the FX crosses. If you like this video, please help me out by giving me a like, share it, comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this.